Hello, and welcome to the Reykjavík Newsdesk. I'm Andie Sophia Fontaine, and these are the week's top stories in Iceland. If you like the content that you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And if you really like the content that you see here, check out the Patreon link in the description below to see what kind of goodies you can get just by kicking a little extra coin our way. But now, the week's top stories. Iceland has a whaling problem, and a new report from the Food and Veterinary Authority underlines this. But first, I'd like to provide you all with a little background about Iceland and whaling, just to dispel a few myths. First of all, whaling is not some ancient part of Icelandic culture. It's in fact a very recent phenomenon. As archaeologist Ragnar Edvardsson pointed out in an academic paper that I've linked below, quote, both the archaeological and historical records suggest that Icelanders never participated in commercial whaling until the 20th century. No large-scale Icelandic industrial complexes have been recorded so far, and therefore, it seems that Icelanders themselves never participated in the European commercial whaling of the 17th to 20th centuries, end quote. Secondly, and this may surprise you if you've ever visited Reykjavík and seen whale meat on menus in restaurants, but in fact, very, very few Icelanders even eat whale meat. A 2018 Gallup poll showed that only 2% of Icelanders said that they even buy whale meat regularly, and 84% said that they've never even tried it. Ironically, it's mostly tourists who eat whale meat in this country, specifically minke whale, in Icelandic restaurants. Third, a 2022 poll from the International Fund for Animal Welfare found that some 64.3% of Icelanders believe that whaling is bad for the country's reputation. Now, this is a sentiment that's echoed by a lot of leaders in Iceland's tourism industry, which is arguably Iceland's largest economic engine right now. This same poll showed that 52.5% of Icelanders believe that whaling is of no importance to the Icelandic economy, and they would be right. A 2015 article from Iceland's financial newspaper Viðskiptablaðið took a closer look at the numbers behind Hvalur HF, which is Iceland's sole fin whaling company. And they found that the company had in fact lost 72.5 million ISK in the previous financial year. And in fact, Hvalur is pretty much held afloat, if you will, by HB Grandi, which is a large fishing corporation that in part owns Hvalur HF. Literally the only reason why fin whaling exists in Iceland is because of this man, Kristján Lofsson, who's a multimillionaire who owns Hvalur HF, and he simply doesn't want to stop whaling. However, and this is very important, he does so at the leisure of the Minister of Fisheries, who grants or denies permits for whaling hunting. The previous Minister of Fisheries gave him a permit to hunt whales in 2019, but that permit runs out this year, which brings us to our current Minister of Fisheries, Svandís Svavarsdóttir. Svandís told National Geographic last year that this year the government would examine Hvalur HF's practices when it comes to the hunting of whales to be sure that their practices are in accordance with Iceland's laws and regulations regarding animal welfare and such. Interestingly, she ended with the caveat that whaling is, quote, a part of our past rather than our future, end quote. So in conclusion to all this background, whaling is not a part of Iceland's rich cultural heritage. It's not a part of Icelanders' diets. Most Icelanders believe it's hurting the country's reputation and doesn't contribute to the economy. Literally, one person is keeping the entire industry afloat. So if the government conducted an examination of Hvalur's whaling practices this year, what were the conclusions? Well, now we know. The Food and Veterinary Authority is the one who conducted these examinations, and they found some pretty bleak stuff, namely that about 1 in 4 whales are not killed on the first harpooning. Rather, it will take several harpoonings to kill about a quarter of these whales, and even when that's done, it can take hours for these whales to die. Now, this is important because Iceland doesn't just grant whaling permits as a blank check. There are actual regulations on whale hunting. And Article 3 of these regulations states that the animal must be killed either instantly or as quickly as possible with as little suffering as possible. Furthermore, Article 8 states that any violation of the regulations on whale hunting can result in the minister revoking the whaling permit. So this seems pretty open and shut, right? And the Food and Veterinary Authority has determined that the evidence shows that Hvalur is breaking the regulations about whale hunting, and the regulations also show that the minister has the authority to revoke this permit. So is she going to do it? No. It turns out she's not going to revoke the whaling permit for Kvalahauef. Now, this has resulted in some confusion and some anger, including from members of parliament who are putting pressure on Svandís to revoke this permit. But she has said that her advisors told her that she does not, in fact, have the legal authority to revoke this permit. Even if she did so, revoking the permit now could result in the government having to pay damages to Kvalur by ending the hunting season early. So whether the minister has the authority to revoke the permit now or not, one thing is clear, that the minister does have the authority to not renew the permit at the end of the year. She has intimated that she probably will not do so. We never know, but it seems like very, very likely that this may very well be the last year that fin whaling is conducted in Iceland. In other news, Parliament has granted citizenship to some 18 foreigners, including 2 members of Pussy Riot. Normally, the process for applying for citizenship is a lengthy one, involving multiple applications through several government institutions, but you can also appeal directly to Parliament, specifically the Parliamentary General Committee. This is sometimes done when people are rejected by the Director of Immigration, for example, or the Ministry of Justice to get citizenship. They might make an appeal to Parliament, or they might appeal directly to Parliament. It's here that Lyudmila Alikena and Lucy Stein were granted citizenship after fleeing Russia in 2022. Bear in mind that normally it takes 7 years for someone outside of the European Economic Area to even qualify to apply for citizenship. The Council of Europe Summit starts next week, and as I said in a previous video, large portions of downtown Reykjavík will be closed to vehicular traffic and foot traffic on May 16th and 17th. However, an even larger area is going to be closed off to drones. This orange area that you see here stretches from Keflavik all the way to the Reykjavik Peninsula and encompasses the entire peninsula. This is a vast area in which flying drones is going to be banned. A spokesperson for the police said that no drones found flying in this orange area will be shot down, but the police do have equipment for being able to take drones down from the sky. However, he would not go into the details as to what that anti-drone technology is. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if somebody tests the police on this particular subject. And lastly, someone trolled Icelandic fishing giant Samherji in incredible fashion. Now, as I said on my previous video on Icelandic political scandals, Samherji is a fishing giant, and in 2019, a whistleblower disclosed that this fishing giant was engaging in bribing Namibian officials in order to get lucrative fishing quotas in Namibian waters, and the profits from this fishing, a lot of the profits from this fishing went into offshore tax shelters. While numerous Namibian officials have since been arrested and or convicted, not a single person in Samherji in Iceland has faced any consequences whatsoever for this until now. Some enterprising person or persons got the domain samherji.co.uk, made the entire website look like it was an official Samherji website, and issued a public apology in English that I've linked to in the description below. It's really incredible. I highly recommend that you read it for yourself because every single word of it is just Lastly, the upcoming single topic video that was determined by a viewer poll. The viewer poll is for patrons on the $15 and $20 level, and they're the ones who take part in this poll to decide what the subject of my next single topic video will be. The results of that poll determined that my next single topic video will be about weird moments in Icelandic history, and that is going to be released next Friday. I've nailed down that date now, so stay tuned for that. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you find it a lot of fun and very educational to watch as well. In any event, that's all for me here at Newsdesk. If you like the content that you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And if you really like the content that you see here, check out the Patreon link in the description below. Which reminds me, I want to thank Corinne Vasquez, Marion Ward, Christopher Hunter, Marion Moores, Kimberly McDaniel and Iceman98 for being patrons on the $20 level, Laura Johnson for being a patron on the $15 level, and Stephen Ellis and Vivi Carvajal Schaffner for being patrons on the $10 level. You folks rock. That's all from me. Be good to each other.